Welcome to Lassoing Leadership. I'm your co-host, Garth Nichols, Vice Principal at Havergal College, situated on Treaty 13 lands on Turtle Island, and I'm joined by Jason Rogers.
I'm Jason Rogers. I'm also your co-host. I'm the head school here at Rundle College in Calgary, Alberta. And I'm thrilled to be back, Garth, for season 2 of the Lassoing
Season
Leadership
two.
podcast.
Yeah. This is season 2. We'll dive into where we dive into individual episodes, the hit TV series Ted Lasso on Apple TV. We learn more about how to lead in a better, kinder, and more compelling way. And we've created this podcast out of our love of learning, our love of leadership, and our love of all things Ted Lasso. So we're looking forward to season 2 because season 2 takes on new challenges. They introduce new characters, new challenges of leadership, adds depth to each of the characters as well. It's going to be a great season for all of us.
Right on. I believe that. And one of our biggest learnings for us personally, Garth, I can speak, we've been talking back and forth, is the fact that we have our own blind spots. So you can look forward to benefiting from that as we add guests to help us expand our perspective on leadership. We've got a full slate of guests joining us throughout this season. We aim for no more than 20 minutes per episode, where we talk about our favorite characters of the episode, leadership nuggets of gold. We also take a stab at renaming each episode just for fun. And then we leave you with a leadership challenge based on these learnings.
And with each episode, we love to hear what our listeners are saying. So, yeah, checking in on your mom and dad here, your wife, are they listening still?
I haven't heard much from them recently, but I've been away. So, but I have been getting some feedback and remains consistent. And as I mentioned in our episode 7-2 off, I play in a monthly poker league, and we start up again this week. Managed to get 6th out of 21 players, so it's not bad. I feel pretty good about that. But several of them are tuning in this season, and with that said, they're enjoying it. However, poker players are notorious for their bluffing, so I'm taking their feedback with a grain of salt. With that said, we've earned more subscribers this week, and we've had our first listen from somebody under the age of 16. Now, I presume that they just stumbled onto the wrong podcast, but you never know. We might give Mr. Beast a run for his followerdom.
Could be our Instagram, could be TikTok. Who knows?
We're out there in all those places. Now, I understand, Garth, you are getting closer to Juno Temple. Tell us more about that.
Well, yeah, in a way. I've got a colleague of mine, Calgary International and French School, Chantel. She's a listener, which is amazing. She's a great leader, she's a great educator. And we spent some time together in Nairobi because we were traveling with our students. She agrees with me that Keely is a shining light in season 1. So thank you, Chantel. She says that she loves her heart-centered approach and is a strong, ambitious, independent woman hero. So I love that she's agreeing with me, but also that she sees the same in Keely. And also, Jason, she has a friend who was a stunt double for Juno when they were filming Fargo in Calgary.
Garth, hold on. Do you know what that means?
No, but last time on the podcast, we talked about your delusions of grandeur. But yes, I don't know what it means.
Garth, we are only 1 degree separated from Juno, which means we are only 2 degrees separated from Brett and Jason Sudeikis. And you know what that means, Garth?
We're going to get them on the show, aren't we?
I think this gives us reason to believe we can get
Nice.
1, 2, or all 3 of them on the show.
I love it.
All right, let's jump into the episode with the summary for those folks who haven't seen this in a little while. Garth, why don't you take us through what you saw and what people might remember from this episode?
Yeah, fantastic. So Denny Rojas takes a penalty shot. It's the opening scene, and he inadvertently kills the Greyhound mascot of AFC Richmond, and he develops a case of the yips. If you don't know what the yips are, don't look it up. Roy is no longer a part of AFC Richmond. He's coaching youth soccer, and we'll see that Keely is trying to get him into the pundit, the commentary side of football. AFC hires Dr. Sharon Fieldstone to look after Danny's, what we believe to be Danny's psychological sort of challenge after having killed the Greyhound mascot, the dog. So Ted is confronted by his fear of psychology and psychologists, and we start to learn a little bit more. He's challenged and surprised by Dr. Sharon Fieldstone's confidence and the space she begins to take up. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit in this episode. Rebecca wises up. That's a reference to the Amy Mann song that plays in the background of a certain scene, and takes Roy and Keely's advice to not settle for fine in her love life. And finally, Roy Kent is discovered watching a reality TV show featuring Jamie Tart called Lust Conquers All. And he's watching this show with his yoga moms on Yoga Mom Night. So there's a lot of shockers in this first episode and a lot of things that set us up for season two.
Two things there. Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, I love her when she asked Ted, "Are you a good coach?" And he says, "Yeah, I think so." And then she turns around and says, "I'm twice as good at being a therapist." And he kind of sets him back, and I think that's a really powerful moment. And the second thing is we start to see the soundtrack evolve, and they're layering in, I think, incredibly wise music choice. I think we're going to explore that a little bit throughout this season. So that's a great summary. But I'm not sure about you, Garth, but as this continues to evolve, I'm having more laugh out loud moments and also having more deep contemplations. It just gets better with time.
Yeah, I agree. And we start to see a lot more vulnerability, more diversity, the deepening of characters of themselves, but also in who they are in relation to others. A lot of inter-character challenges, which I love. So in this episode, Jason, who is your favorite character? But I think I can guess.
Garth, I've tried to change. I took the whole off season between our, season 1 and season 2, tried to change, but I can't do it. Those 6 days just weren't enough. I can't change. I can't get away from Roy Kent. In this episode, we see him in 2 coaching roles as he transitions into a life after AFC Richmond. He's on the soccer pitch with his niece's soccer team. And even though his language doesn't change, I do think he's enjoying himself. And I'm sure you've heard of this, but the best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody else. And I feel like that might be what's going on here. Who knows? Maybe we'll bring it back in a leadership challenge today or another time. The second role, coaching role, is a relationship mentor and straight talker to Rebecca. He says to her after a lame date, "You deserve better than fine. You deserve someone who makes you feel like you've been struck by lightning." I think Roy has started to learn about the power of teaching and, frankly, the power of love. Who's your new character? Your flavor?
Huey Lewis. I love that you pulled out Rebecca, as, like what happens with Rebecca here, because for me, it is Rebecca in this episode because she has the wealth, she has the look, the frame of mind of a leader, and she's got the positionality of a leader.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But also we can see she's become part of the team. So she's expanding, who she's hanging out with. She's expanding her connection with the team. And in that way, she's making herself more vulnerable. And she's also getting vulnerable in terms of getting out in the dating world.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about her in this episode is that she reveals to us that leaders don't always have to have it all together. And leaders have to learn how to take advice. And it can take a while to process some advice for some leaders. So after hearing the advice from Keely and Roy, a couple of nights later, she's actually out with her boyfriend, and she is processing their advice out loud while she is simultaneously breaking up with her boyfriend. And I'll paraphrase here, but she says, I have to be brave enough to love. I have to be brave enough to love and be open to being hurt.
Yes.
And she's saying this. Her boyfriend replies, are you breaking up with me? Oh, sorry. Yes, I guess I am. But for me, this rings true of like Brené Brown in her book, Dare to Lead. So I love that she's modeling that vulnerability. I love that she's modeling how to take advice from a leader, that you don't have to take it and deal with it in the moment. You can process it. You can put it, put it into your practice and see how it feels. So even though she looks the part and sounds the part, she's expanding her level of vulnerability and therefore enhancing her capacity to lead, I think.
Garth, I love that you pull up Brené Brown and that book, Dare to Lead, and all of her books are just pure magic. Do you mind? I've got a few leadership ahas here. I'd love to jump into them. Are you ready for me to jump in on the leadership challenge side?
A few? Okay. Yeah, let's go for it. You got more than one? That's fine. Let's go.
Okay. This episode is entitled Goodbye, Earl. And from it, I took away the power of storytelling, especially in the moments of crisis or tragedy. During the press conference after Danny's free kick hits Earl the dog, resulting in his untimely death, Ted is asked by Trent Krim from The Independent, do you have any thoughts on today's incident that involved Danny and Earl? Without hesitation, Ted steps into a narrative about growing up and an experience he had with the dog when he was young. He explains that when he lost his dog as a boy, he had trouble moving on, and that loss helped him move from one place to another, although it was difficult. But for Ted, it's always about growing and learning, and I'm sure in his mind, he is concerned about Danny. However, he remains hopeful that somewhere in the sadness, there will be growth for Danny and for the team.
I love that.
Yeah. Do you mind
really nice. Wait, because I I also like how, everyone comes together, right? And I think that's really important. I think that when you step into storytelling, you've got to build that, the audience with you, and actually, like, not like just coincidentally, seriously, Harvard Business Review, storytelling that drives bold change.
There you go.
You got another one.
Let's see if you got another magazine for this one, Garth. So here it is. Shortly after Ted gives his post-game talk to the team and tells the team to be goldfish, obviously encouraging them to move on from the game and the incident, one of the newer players who hails from the Netherlands first asks another player what the saying means, and then goes on to say to another player in the dressing room that, he didn't make any mistakes. Only this other player played poorly. In that moment, Sam decides it's his turn to step up and lead. He steps in and says, Jan is not being rude. He's being Dutch. Now, you could take this one or two ways and it could be a slight, but I really think this is an important reminder to remember that we all come from different places and our experience inform who we are. Beard comes back to this later in the episode by reminding Ted that he once told him, all people are different people. Now, in a sense, it feels pretty colloquial, but I think it's totally true. Everybody is different, and respecting and responding to that is important from leadership. Now, lastly, the new team's sports psychologist also overheard greeting players as they're coming into her office in their home language. And I think this is a true testament to connecting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that you pulled this out because it also speaks about cultural fluency, cultural wisdom. There's many different terms for it, but I think Ted is putting on his heels a little bit when he sees Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, and he's thinking to himself, I maybe need to up my game in terms of how I connect with people. But also, to your point about goldfish, Ted might be thinking, I need to up my game in terms of my analogies, in terms of how I coach, because not everything is going to translate. We talked about this briefly, but having cultural fluency is integral to being a good leader for everyone on your team. So I love that you pulled that out. You got more?
I got more.
Let's keep going.
Okay, this episode is packed with lessons and insights. Yeah. Remember when Will, the new club trainer, comes in and asks to leave a little earlier for his mom's 50th birthday? Nate, I think, shows his true colors by telling Will that he can't go. He needs to stay till everybody's gone. But then Ted, and he doesn't do this often, he jumps in and tells Will to go and enjoy his mom's birthday. Here, once again, we see Ted is seeing the best in people. Will's not taking advantage. This is mom's 50th birthday. And he's encouraging him to put family first. This is a long and enduring value held by Ted. Values.
Yeah, you're right. There's another part of this scene, which is Nate. Right. And Nate's development. And I wonder if Ted is a bit fallible here in terms of, has he onboarded Nate into his culture effectively now that Nate is a leader in that culture. And I think that's important. How do we onboard people? Not just giving them the whistle, right? Not just coaching them from the side, but actually onboarding people into the culture. I have a feeling you're not done though, Jason. You got more?
I'm close, man. I love this episode. So when the management team comes together after the game, after the press conference, after everything, Higgins, Rebecca, Ted, and Keeley, they quickly move through circles of impact. Rebecca asks, how is Danny doing? Okay. And what I love most comes next. They ask about the dog owners and how he's doing. How is Earl's owner doing? With dealing with any tragedy as leaders, we need to remember to consider all who may be impacted and support them how they want to be supported, not how we think they should be supported. And in this instance, Rebecca has gone forward and made a donation to a dog shelter on Earl's owner's behalf. And I can't think of a better way to support them. Circles of impact, I think, is a huge leadership lesson.
Yeah, and it reminds me when we had Dr. Kathy Bishop on talking about collective wisdom. I think pulling the team together, we'll see that more and more, that you lead better when you lead with others too. Draw on their wisdom as well.
You got it.
You got another one, don't you?
I can't help myself. As Danny misses dozens of free kicks at practice, Ted offers to go for a walk with Danny. Although this doesn't result in immediate improvement, Ted utilizes a walking meeting strategy in leadership. In leadership, too often we sit facing each other in a totally oppositional stance. Psychologists have found that by walking side by side, not only does it activate our physiological benefits of activity, it also indicates that we're moving in the same direction together.
Amazing. Do you do walking meetings?
I do walking meetings all the time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
I
them.
try to. I try to. Um, yeah, Brené Brown, come back to Brené Brown, Dare to Lead, but also she has this idea, this sort of visualization where you take the problem and you put it in front of you,
Mm,
you move it from
yes.
between you, you put it in front of you, and you turn shoulder to shoulder and say, all right, let's address this problem together. And I think that's a powerful visual that she provides too. So, Jason, do you have any more?
I think I'll stop there, but we might need to start a Brene Brown fan club at this rate, Garth. So,
Let's get her on the podcast.
yeah. Sorry, I couldn't
Uh,
stop sharing. I love this so much. What did you see, Garth? Why don't you share with our listeners?
Oh, do I get a turn? That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'll be quick because you pulled out so much that I love. But I think there's an underappreciated role that Higgins plays in here. His commentary, the way he brings in his family. He says, "I have to watch The Empire Strikes Back with his boys."
Mhm.
Whereas in
Yep.
season one, he was rushing and he was, concerned about how his family was impacted by his job. Now he's actually taking the time. I think that's really strong leadership. But he takes the lead on Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, and I see him coming into his own with the Diamond Dogs. Higgins says when they're having this problem with Danny Rojas, he says the first thing we need to do is to define the issue. Don't you love when leaders say that? It's a moment of pause. And then he says to Ted, what are your thoughts on therapy? So here he is applying his wisdom and knowledge from other teams who have brought in therapists as well. And I just love that about Higgins.
Oh, man.
Underappreciated moment, I think. Yeah.
Hey, Garth, you made me think of one more. Do we have 30 seconds to just get this one in?
Yeah, of course.
When you said Higgins, I couldn't help but remember that this is the start of his revolving office dilemma. Higgins knows that the counselor needs private space, and he leads by example. I think that's what I love about Higgins. He's always leading by. We'll see that later in this season as well. And he moves to a table in the hallway. He's making a sacrifice for the betterment of the team. Often, leadership is about sacrifice. I think that's about it, Garth.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in 5 different offices at Havergal in my 8 years here. I've been trying to make myself more visible, and we've talked about that. And here's Higgins doing that, open to being moved around, open to being visible. I love it. Okay, let's jump into renaming the episode. And before you get another leadership lesson, I'm going to go first. So
take the honors. Go for it.
I would circle back to your first point about leadership and Ted's press conference, and he says the things in your life, can sometimes make you cry knowing they exist, and then they can make you cry knowing that they're gone. So I would like to rename this episode "The Things in Your Life," your fears, your vulnerabilities, your work life, your personal life. They make up the tapestry of who you are, and you have to remember that about those you lead as well, right? The things in your life, like a colleague comes to my office, they have things in their life, and the thing that they're coming to talk to me is just one part of that piece. So I think the things in your life capture this really well.
No, Garth, I'm glad.
What about you?
Well, I'm glad that this podcast and you are 2 things in my life. So I really.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd rename it "Be Brave. It's Not Going to Stop." Okay.
Ooh,
I take this from the scene you spoke about earlier where Rebecca breaks up with her new boyfriend. She gives a beautiful speech about being brave as she is letting him go. In the background, a song by Amy Mann is playing, and the lyric that's overlaying this is "It's not going to stop." I think as leaders, we need to be brave and we need to be ready to face tragedy, loss, sadness, and difficulty head on. And it's not going to stop. So that's it for me. I think be brave and it's not going to stop.
And that might be your next karaoke song. Amy Mann.
Yeah, or a tagline for listening to this podcast.
There you go. All right. Speaking of, let's move on. Leadership challenge. So I like the idea of a press conference. It opens, I think that it's a pivotal one here in the episode. So I'm going to put it out there that we should hold a press conference as a leader. It could be about a mistake you made. It could be about an idea that you have, but gather your team around, give them the role of interrogating you, asking you questions. In education, like in the classroom teachers call this lesson studies, and that carries some powerful built-in protocols to it. In politics, it's a scrum. But in colloquial terms, it might just be brainstorming for you. And as Ted says, don't bring an umbrella. Be prepared to be rained on. And if you do this one time only, it's not going to work. Try and make this part of your regular practice. So don't just jump into it, but try and make it part of your regular practice, and you'll get more involvement, more questions.
Leadership challenge accepted. I love that, Garth.
Nice. And speaking of things that we also love, Jason, season 2, episode 1. What do you, our listeners, think of this? A reminder, if you like what you've heard, get in touch with us. We love listener feedback. Share it with your friends. Like us on Spotify, all those things. Because if we're ever going to get Jason Sudeikis on here, or like Juno, you never know, we're going to need your support. Jason, take us home.
Until next time, keep leading the lasso way.
Thanks, everybody.